We are running really late. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and this tells you how important this is and how much we're putting into this. Because it's still Easter, y'all. We have 38 more days, right? I mean, um, Easter lasts 40 days. So, this is going to be absolutely um, war against the evil. So we are on, and I hope I did it right because, gosh, so much has been going on today, so much information coming in. We're on day 2074, I believe, 2074 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there because he was a whistleblower, not any whistleblower, the whistleblower that absolutely unraveled this whole deep state Mormon faction cartel, CJNG, Iran Contra, organ harvesting. I'm talking about trafficking guns and children and all. It unraveled this whole fuel theft, everything. Um, and um, and they first tried to retaliate. They had to smear him. It was all a plan because they had to try to smear him, discredit him as a whistleblower. It all started in Qatar, and I know that. I know that for a fact that it started in Qatar because he told me. Um, and Qatar, or you can say Qatar, that's right there, right beside Iran. And It all started there. And I know that because of what he said to my dad, what he said to my husband, what he said to his siblings, that it was so corrupt, y'all. It was so corrupt. And what he was talking about was his unit, the military. He was talking about the U.S. military there at Qatar was so corrupt that he had his eyes open because when he joined, he was aspiring to be CID agent, to serve his country, and he realized in Qatar that he could not depend on his chain of command, that his chain of command were corrupt and compromised and doing things that were so bad, and it was in Qatar. And talking with his chain of command, I can corroborate that. I can corroborate um, that that they did not have our son's interest, our military, our their duty at interest at all. And we have evidence that will blow your mind. Our lawsuits are going to be absolutely epic. And you absolutely have the evidence, a lot of it in your own hands that we have been given to the public, documenting to the public, filing it to all the agencies, to our government institutions, constantly filing, putting everything on record that so that everybody, all the public, can have what we have investigated, identified, documented, and filed. Um, what Richard started um, to unravel this very, very evil deep state, cartel, FTO, also these transnational, um, dual citizen, dual agent, Mormon faction, narco philanthropists. They cover themselves with these benevolent terms like philanthropist when they are just a narco agent, um, and making so much money off of the backs of so many American taxpayers, and also off the lives of our volunteer sons and daughters, and absolutely tainting and corrupting our countries, not just the United States, our countries. And so yeah, it's today was just absolutely so much, sorry, so much information coming in. And one thing that I want to make very, very clear, what the evidence shows, is that everything happening at the border, Zorro Ranch, Fort Bliss, El Paso, Fort Huachuca, the attempts on President Trump's life, the Charlie Kirk's case, are absolutely our son's case. They're all connected, and it ends up there at the, well, the mouth, I would say, the evil, um, am I allowed to say some of these words, in Iran. And why do I say that? Because it has been confirmed now that CJNG even bypassed, like the Juarez cartel became the El Paso cartel in alliance with these narco philanthropists, right? In alliance, um, with other cartels and the Mormon faction, um, became the El Paso cartel, the CJNG. Um, and they are the most brutal cartel. We don't want them in El Paso, Texas, but they're there. They're there, and they're still there. And they have infiltrated every area of our society and economy. And it leads, they are in alliance with Hezbollah. And I don't know if I'm saying that word right, because I'm just, I want my son's body, and I want accountability for what they have done. And I'm a patriot. Um, I love my country. I love my family. And I just can't even believe that we're letting this very, very evil, flesh peddling, human flesh eating cartel jump into our government system and affect our politics and do the damage they do to the economy, all the criminal elements of this, our institutions. Um, and thank God for President Trump. And you see the impact that this cartel, in their alliances with Hezbollah, Iran, the Palestinian pro-Palestine movement, um, and it's not even so much religious or whatever, because you have to add on this Mormon faction. You have to add on their infiltration into so many institutions, religious institutions, also into the politics on the blue side and on the red side. Um, because, we've been reporting all of that. Uh, the divisions they make in your head, right? For them, they have an agenda. And if it means to infiltrate the red, infiltrate the blue, infiltrate a certain religious group, and be an imposter, um, they will do that. They will do that. This is just so diabolical because it is about lying. It is about um, uh, tampering and falsifying documents and um, impersonating, masquerading. There's no truth in it. There's no truth. They are just um, doing their damage in every which way because they serve money and power, and they want our country and they want our institutions, and um, it's very clear that this CJNG absolutely with this group uh, is in alliance, is the proxy for Hezbollah, for Iran, the Iranian faction Hezbollah, and that they had given the drones to Venezuela, but then into Central America, um, and that even like this shutdown of the skies over El Paso, it can all be explained by these drones, and these drones are not just some kind of little kite, right? They have surveillance. Um, eh, they have They have different technologies to do some real damage to our country. And that happened at the 10th and 11th of February this year. And then, of course, because of the alliance with Hezbollah and CJNG, the next thing you knew, there was the raid on the 22nd of February of El Mencho, the leader of the CJNG, and of his I guess his operations, his G3 operation, where they captured the logbooks and the ledgers and all of that. And 6 days later, President Trump had enough. He had enough evidence. Um, and of course, there is a narrative, because how do you tell the world, look, we've got a cartel that is in alliance with Hezbollah and others that are infiltrated in our country, in our military, right? Um, and we have to fight back. We have to fight back to preserve our country. And I can tell you right now, the evidence is all out there, and it's all um, just jaw dropping. And I know from Richard um, that it started in Qatar, that things were happening in Qatar that were not good, y'all, not good at all. And it was our military engaged in these criminal actions there in Qatar. You can say Qatar, you can say Qatar, whatever. Um, so when he was forcibly removed, this was a planned thing. He uh, he was the whistleblower. He reported. Um, he wanted to be CID, and He had good. He has good character. Look at what President Trump said about him. It's not a normal letter that a president would send to a Gold Star family, especially in our case, and especially if um, if he was had other intentions. No, he sent two letters, not one letter, and one letter was his policies. He's sharing his policies to get accountability with the Gold Star family. That's never happened. You know, look that up. How many presidents have shared their policies with the Gold Star family to get accountability? It just doesn't happen. And the next one is just overwhelmingly designating Richard a hero, an absolute hero. And clarifying that these smears that we knew it as his family, but officially letting the world know that the smears were just that. They were smears. It was false. And just like what they've done to President Trump, all of these false smears, and of course, he's, getting up there in age, so they could, comb through his life and pick and choose whatever, against him. Richard was just so young. They didn't have much to go by, and it was all stellar. It was all stellar. And when you're 19, 20 years old, and they had to fabricate. And I can tell you this, they fabricated in the Walmart mass shooting against President Trump. And we know that for a fact because of our investigation. So, President Trump's very tough stand yesterday and his tough words, really tough words against um, Hezbollah leadership in Iran is um, is right on the money because the circumstances, what's at stake here is there's so much, and you cannot just play defensive. You've got to play offensive, and it is really a breath of fresh air after these 5.5 years to have a president that is willing to take the risk to be offensive, um, not not carelessly or not for the military industrial complex contracts, but actually for the country, actually risking politics, not playing politics, actually risking the politics because the midterms are coming up, and you see the people that you thought that you could trust. Um, you see their true colors. You see their true colors because we're here to tell everybody that President Trump is absolutely right in doing what he is doing. Because what they did to President Trump in the Walmart mass shooting, what they did to all those bloody victims, and to Richard, the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier, and to Glendon Oakley Jr., and to many, many more. But really, what they did to Richard is just such an act of war. And the mutiny against President Trump in 2019 and 20 was absolutely an act of war. And that leads to, well, we're getting closer, but absolutely for right now, it's Iran. It is Iran. And I'm not saying the Iranian people. Matter of fact, when we lived in Olney, Maryland, our neighbor, we got along great with them, Iranian people. Rich, rich history. We're talking about the um, the grip, the grip of Hezbollah on Iran. And all of this redirection to our allies, and I'm not talking about Europe, even though I have this love for Germany, but what they are, whatever, they have to do what they're doing. But I don't know why we're in NATO, because NATO is not even being NATO, right? NATO is not even being NATO, so why are we in NATO? Um, so this is, I don't think that because the media is not in our control, and the media is has been also controlled by this cartel group, and we know that in El Paso, they absolutely are controlled by an enemy group, domestic enemies, foreign enemies, you name it. Our media is absolutely not not in the hands of friendlies, okay? And they continue to try to smear Richard and just a total hero, while putting criminals in the headlines for, oh, we gave an award to this person, and the philanthropist is so, we got to give an award to the philanthropist. And these are, just the flesh peddlers, right? These are the flesh peddlers, the ones that are doing us so much evil. So yeah, it's hard for people to understand the level of betrayal, the level of mutiny that was in 2019 and 2020, and we have it even today. But it was really bad then, and you saw it with what they did with the COVID too. The level of betrayal there. So, yeah, now, they, of course, so they had to go after Richard, and they took him down to the basement room, a basement room that absolutely was renovated with no expense spared. That's taxpayers' money, y'all, to obstruct justice, to tamper with evidence. There was a seal on the door. We know that that room is the room that they took our son's life. And it was Major General James Eisenhower that gave the unlawful order to renovate without going through normal protocol. And we know that because of the testimony of DES, Director of Emergency Services, Thomas Kane. And so, the evidence is all there, and these lawsuits are going to be absolutely epic, because the failure of the leadership, the betrayal of the leadership, and I think it amounts to being a traitor, right? And I think, yeah, those hearings are just going to be, wow, wowzers. And I know that they're really trying very, very hard to get CGNG, one of the candidates for Chihuahua, Mexico, is a CGNG, and they want that. They want that position because they want to control the police. They want to control, that would be the state police, some municipal, by if you control the state police, and you can control the municipal police. So yeah, and they're also going to try really, really hard. You see them with all the hate against what President Trump is doing. And they never had this kind of hate for all these other conflicts and all these other, um, really bad decisions by other presidents. Not that this, and this is a good decision. That's why they are gnashing at their teeth are gnashing, and they're, you know, are acting pretty deranged because what he's doing is right on the money, is right on the money, and it's hurting um, uh, their um, their business plans, right? Their business plans and their bottom line. And so, uh, yeah, it's very clear through our evidence, and we have been releasing it. And we wanted to make an argument today by showing people and highlighting the cases, the arrests that are going on right now with CJNG, what they're up to, and who they're connected to, that they are connected to Hezbollah, and that they are the proxy for them, and they are in the United States, and they mean us harm. They mean us harm. And if you don't like all the things that they are up to, which are really very, very bad, if they get into power, if they control politicians, if they control law enforcement, if they control the justice system, then it's bad news. So many people are going to get hurt. So, and that's what they want to do. That's what they want to control, and they already are into our institutions. So, this is why what President Trump is doing is so um, amazing, because the the infiltration is so bad, right? So, yeah, what he's doing is really amazing, and we really need to support him. Thank you, Laura, so much. And also, these are, we call them the vicious negotiations for the repatriation of our son's remains. Um, and we want our son's remains. And uh, all their pattern is that they kept the bodies, okay? They had every chance to destroy bodies. The ovens were working. They have all kinds of methods of destroying bodies, but they weren't doing that. They were keeping the bodies. Even Del Carmen kept the bodies. And what were they doing with them, right? Um, uh, that is really the $1 million question, right? When you have people in Colorado keeping bodies, and people in Pennsylvania keeping bodies, and now you have overseas people keeping bodies, and then of course in Juarez keeping bodies. There's a market for these bodies, and that's what we need to find out. What were they doing with these bodies? And where is our son's body? We want our son's body. So, y'all have a great evening. Uh, oh, great day. A great day. Because, for me, it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. There's no time to sleep because this is so important. And we absolutely took time out for Easter. Just beautiful days. Um, and we just add that into our schedule because this is so important. This is our country, and this is our child. And we really appreciate all the sharing that you do. And it seems this is the breaking news, and then I'll finish up. The breaking news, uh, besides showing the connection between CJNG, El Paso, all of those groups, and then with Hezbollah from Iran, and that whole pipeline. The other is right there in El Paso, in the courthouse, where once Julio Cordero, if you don't know who that is, that's the legendary FBI agent, Julio Cordero of Poisoned Ponds. And this is where Gilbert Sanchez, Luther Jones, were sent to prison, right? Were sent to prison because of the incredible investigation that Julio Cordero did, and that, excuse me, and that sent, over 40 of these poison pawns to prison. And that is the same place that right now we're getting information. We already have corroborating information that we put into an article that we just posted, but we're getting information that Sam Medrano's wife, Bernadette Medrano Chavez, may have and is suspected of rigging the assignment process, the assignment a wheel, where you spin it, a wheel for selecting the judge on the Walmart mass shooting case. And she's suspected of rigging it, right? Being part of, this overdrive of selecting Judge Medrano to the case. He was selected on September 30th, 2019. That's really important date because the Walmart mass shooting happened August 3rd, 2019. And our evidence and our audio recordings have Joe Spencer saying that he had talked to Judge Medrano. He named the judges, Judge Medrano and Judge Guadarrama, the federal judge on the case, before I think even the federal judge was even assigned. But I know for sure before Judge Medrano was assigned. And I think the way he talks and the timeline, because you have to understand, it was like 5:42 or 5:48 in the morning on that Sunday morning, because the shooting was on a Saturday, that they approved illegally. They approved a really a terrible application for appointed counsel, because they didn't even check into Patrick Crusius's millions of dollars. They just said, "Oh, he's a poor boy," and he wasn't. He's a wealthy boy, and they assigned, an appointed counsel, right? And that was Joe Spencer, and that was on August 4th at 5:48. I believe it was 5:48 in the morning. It might have been 5:42, but 5:48 in the morning, early morning on a Sunday morning. By Monday, on August 5th, he was already visiting Patrick Crusius in the jail. Okay, we know that because of other audio recording that we have of him. So, but we have the audio recording that says that he had told Judge Medrano and Judge Guadarrama that he would not take this case unless he wasn't going to nickel and dime it. He wanted an open checkbook. He wanted an open checkbook. And so what that indicates is that they were plotting and planning and rigging this case before the shooting even happened. So this is just one more piece of evidence with having um, Bernadette Medrano, the wife of Sam Medrano, working in the courthouse in the assignment office, and now being suspected of rigging the selection of the judge with the assignment wheel, which is digitized. It's a computer program by Odyssey that they use. And yeah, she's being suspected of overriding the selection process. Um, yeah, we'll see how that all gets investigated, right? Because that is just, she's the wife, right? Where is the she needed to recuse herself and say, I have a conflict of interest. I'm one of the judge's wives. I cannot be spinning the wheel or, being in charge of this. But Jaime Esparza, the DA at the time, that also had a conflict of interest because his sister was at the Walmart scene, right? But he absolutely said that he knew just the judge for the Walmart mass shooting case. And that was on the 6th of August, right? And so Judge Medrano wasn't assigned until the 30th. But on the 6th, they're already making plans for what judge would be on the case. So it the evidence is overwhelming, and anybody that knows the court system absolutely understands what I'm saying. And we've got to get to the bottom of this because they're tampering with our justice system, right? They're tampering with justice, and that's very dangerous. So thank you so much, everybody. God bless you, and I will be